Hey, 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 everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am Chantel Branch, your host. I welcome to season three of MFF Project Podcast, Identity of a Woman. And today we want to kick off the season, kick off the show. I hope your summer was amazing. I hope that you are beginning to settle down this fall. And I have some wonderful, wonderful guests. And before we do that, listen. We have created this podcast because we want to have intimate conversations that we don't always have with our family members. Sometimes we have it with close friends. Sometimes we just keep stuff bottled in. And I want to have those conversations for us to begin to talk so that we can find out that there are other people like us, other people that think like us, and so that we can begin to build community and build a safe space for each of us to share different things. Do you remember that time, like growing up? And I remember growing up and when I was a little girl and I planned out my life. I don't know about you. If you did, drop it in the comments, say, yes, that's me. So I remember growing up and I remember saying, I'm going to get married and I'm going to have four kids. I was going to have two girls and two boys. Well, that didn't happen, right? And I remember saying, I'm going to be a doctor. And then I went to visit a hospital and realized I don't like blood. So then I said, I'm going to be a lawyer. And then I went to mock trials when I was in high school and I decided I don't like to be a lawyer either, right? But I remember just planning out my life, playing with my dolls, playing with the dollhouse, playing in my toy box, building my little community, building my little home, and just imagining what my life will look like. Have you ever thought about that girl or that little girl who had that dream and one day she grew up and she got married and she had the career that she wanted and she built this beautiful, beautiful life, but she couldn't have a baby? That was the one thing in her dream as a little girl that she was not able to have as a young woman. So I wanted to bring on some specialists today to help us debunk the taboo. Black women are always fertile. I think that's just been something that's brought down the line over decades, over centuries. And I want to talk to you guys today about infertility, what it looks like in the African American community, and how we can begin to have comfortable conversations and be able to be support to the women who are struggling with infertility. So I have a great guest today. Her name is Celise Wright. She is, hello, Celise, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you, Chantel? Thanks for having
I
me.
am I am doing well. And Celise is the Fertility Affirmation calendar. She has created this particular calendar, and she's going to tell us more about that a little bit later. But she has a company called Lahojo, Love, Hope, and Joy, and we're going to talk about infertility today. And so I want to bring on my next guest, and her name is Martia Wells, and she is the founder of Go Beautiful Girl, and it's all about being beautiful inside and outside. And they are going to help us debunk the taboo of Black women are fertile and then walk us through the infertility, journey, what it looks like, why it's such a taboo in the African American community, and why we're not having those particular conversations. Hello, Martia. How are you?
Oh, thank you again for having me.
You are welcome. You are welcome. So I wanted to just kind of go right into infertility in the African American community. And either one of you can answer this, what are some of the stigmas that you noticed that were said as you were growing up as it relates to infertility, or some things that were not said as it relates to infertility?
I'll go first. I think that, and I'll speak from my own experience. Growing up, there was no one, not no one in my family that ever talked about miscarriage or talked about or just talked about the struggle of trying to get pregnant, because they were also just more concerned with not trying to get pregnant. So I think that as I was growing up, my mother and even my grandmother would say, don't get pregnant, don't get pregnant. So that was always my mindset. Like, I got to do everything in my power to not get pregnant. So then when I got married and it was time for me to try and prepare my body to conceive, I didn't even know what to do, where to start, what questions to ask my doctor. And it was just like I didn't even have a knowledge that something possible, as far as infertility ever existed, because it was never shared. I was always taught to not get pregnant.
Yeah, I can say the same. I think growing up, like my family was small, so my cousins were just three or four of us girls, and so we just grew up. Of course, you expect the boys to go and run around, but there was not ever any, scares or anything going on with family members. However, my aunt and uncle were unable to conceive, and they adopted a boy, and then later they had their daughter. But even the background behind that, we didn't know what happened. We just kind of said, oh, okay, well, they decided to adopt. It wasn't until I was much older that I imagined that there may be fertility issues there. But yeah, it was never anything that was discussed. It was just taboo. Any family members that didn't have kids, you didn't ask, where are their children and why don't they have any? So there is a big stigma of Black women being able to conceive. And like Tia said, you spend most of your life trying never to get pregnant until, the time comes. And then when you're trying, you're like, what happened? So people think we're, always fertile, always ready to produce. We don't have to do any trying to get pregnant. It's just going to happen naturally.
Those were two really good answers, and I think it's so true. Especially, I'm gonna hone in on that idea or the notion, and just it was drilled into our heads: do not get pregnant, do not get pregnant. And I know that it comes from our mothers and our grandmothers, and and their parents, the fear of a woman raising a child alone, and how hard it is if you have two parents, or to raise a child. It's extremely hard if you have one parent. And so not wanting your family, your daughters, your granddaughters to go through maybe some of the things that you went through, or some of the things that you saw growing up. So it was just drilled into our heads: don't get pregnant, don't get pregnant, don't get pregnant. And so it's so true. Infertility is not discussed. And how, if we never have that thought or that idea, when we continue on in life, and somehow when we get to a point at the end, a point in the road where infertility is now a part of our journey, we can't, or sometimes we can't go to our grandmother and our mother and say, Mom, what to do, because maybe they never faced it. It's never something that's been talked about. And then we ourselves, we don't know how to cope with that. And so we look to our doctors to help us. And do you think that as African American women, that infertility is discussed with the patient? With our doctors having these conversations with African American women? Do we have an insurance? Does our insurance cover this particular cost? Is that something are those conversations that are being had right now?
Yeah, well, if you think about it, right, this is kind of the fairy tale. You expect to get married, you expect to, buy your house, have your cars, your holidays, and start your family. It is not anything that's on anybody's radar. The biggest thing they think for a Black woman is to get the ring, to get the husband, and then everything's just going to work out from there. So it is not anything that you would go to your doctor and even discuss, right? You're just thinking, okay, everything works on both of our parts, so that's fine. And even the ability to speak to your doctor in terms of, should I prepare to get pregnant? That's not even a conversation that I thought to have. Like, okay, everything's working, so we're just gonna try. And then after, months of trying, then you start saying, oh, or you start looking online and you go, oh, there are only certain days you can get pregnant. Oh, it's only, 2 to 3, 4 days that you can get pregnant. Oh, you need to look for certain, your body to do certain things when you can get pregnant. oh, if it doesn't happen after a while, you need to go to your doctor and get a checkup and find out if there's anything wrong. So none of those conversations are anything anyone ever thinks about or tells you about. I remember when I got married, I was asking people for advice about being a wife, and it was all about the relationship. It wasn't anything about, your sex life or your fertility life or investigating how what you need to do so that you can have a family, start a family, or even, preventative methods. None of that was discussed. It was all just kind of figuring out with yourself and your girlfriends.
Wow. Wow. So I would like to know, when you're saying, I want to know, how long has that data been out? So for me, knowing and hearing stories of infertility within the last decade, and not really not really this particular decade. So, I'm always wondering, and I'm just kind of questioning, like, how does how long has that data been out, and how long has African American women not really known? Hey, so I'm wondering, how long has that data been out, and how long has it been maybe hidden or not given to the African American women community? Like, how long has the fertility with the calendar and when you're supposed to be fertile and all of that stuff? How long has that information been out, and where are we supposed to get that information if our doctors are not giving it to us?
Right. So this information, well, now that we have Google and stuff, this is all out there in the public. But when my husband and I were trying to conceive, like, all of that stuff wasn't out there. And you're just talking to friends and family about, you just see your friends and family getting pregnant. So when it's not working for you, you're questioning, like, well, what do we need to do? So it is not even like that information is hidden. It's just not in your realm of thinking. It's not anywhere that you think, oh, I need to go to the doctor and ask them about fertility. Like, it's just not a conversation that you can think about. However, in terms of our just investigations, you just need to ask people questions, right? Did you have any problems struggling? Go to your parents, and find out, did you have any problems conceiving? With my mom, I found that she lost her first child as well. So it was like, oh, I didn't learn that till years later, but it was just a matter of understanding your family's history, how they conceived, how they started their family. Did they have any issues, any struggles, that kind of thing? So it's very important. The doctors are not trying to keep this hidden. So I don't want you to think that if anyone's looking, or the African American community is being mistreated, or the British Black Afro-Caribbean community is being mistreated. It is just knowing that you need to ask these questions. Just like if you go to the doctor, and you had something wrong, you could kind of go in there and just walk out, right? So it's not like your doctor's going to question and say, oh, is your fertility okay? Are you trying to have kids? You've been married. It won't even come up, because they're just focusing on what that issue is that you've come in for. But that information is available. You can ask your doctors. Fertility treatments are available around the world to every person who's, having the funding or whatever to do it. So it's not anything that's being kept away. However, it's just something that isn't discussed openly for African Americans and Afro-Caribbean people around the world.
Absolutely, Celise. And that's what I was just going to say. It was, for me, was the fear of just having someone to really know what was really going on with me. So I was afraid to start asking a lot of people. And so, again, just it was like you said, Celise, it was the asking questions. And
Yeah.
family. I didn't want to be judged. I didn't want to seem like the oddball out. And so, again, it was like you said, Celise, it was the asking questions. And it's not that the resources aren't there. It's just that I didn't know where to start. I
Yeah.
didn't want my story to or my life to be out there. And I just felt like I was alone. So, and because everybody around me was getting pregnant. But
Yep.
as far as the the African American community, not many of us have the funds to afford treatments. So I think that I was just grateful to God that that once I started getting to know what really was going on, and then my doctor could finally pinpoint, okay, this is what we need to focus on. This is the treatment that's going to help you. And that's when I started focusing, okay, it's not what's going on with me. They already told me that there's a treatment. Let me just put my focus on trying to afford it. So
Tia, let
yeah,
me jump in and let me
yeah.
say, let me ask you this.
hmm
When did you notice maybe some signs or some red flags that something is going on with my body and I'm not getting pregnant?
So good. I started figuring out something was going on when I was 18 or 19. When I went to college, I started college at 17. I actually met my then boyfriend, now husband, at 17. And and of course we were doing what dating couples do. And I noticed, because I was on birth control, and I noticed that even on birth control, my cycles wasn't as regular as it should be, because my doctor said, hey, if you take this birth control, this is what's going to regulate your cycles. And it would never regulate my cycles. So I started getting really like concerned with, all right, what's going on with me? That's when I started questioning, I might not be as regular or fertile, than I should be. And I went up, it was like a period of 6 months, a period of time where I just didn't have a cycle at all. And then that's when the fear started coming, like, I'm just not gonna get pregnant, because you need a period. You need to have that ovulation, and I didn't have that. And once I realized that my body just wasn't acting as regular as it should, that's when I was like on it. Every month I was going to the doctor, and we were tracking it. And she was so like, you know what, you're young. She kept putting that on. You're young. It's gonna work itself out. It's gonna work. It's gonna balance out. Just do this and keep taking the birth control. And it wasn't until I started realizing that it may have been the birth control that was messing up, the normal things that my body is supposed to do on its own. And when I stopped that, I think that that's when I started taking charge of my own health. And I started seeing a little bit more of a pattern that, okay, I might not be ovulating, but I'm giving my body a chance to heal itself. And then I went to a specialist, and not my
Okay.
gynae.
Okay. So Celeste, I wanted to jump in with you as well because you do have the calendar. And then Tia, once you noticed the signs and you started, having those interactions with your
Mm-hmm.
your 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 OBGYN, right? Or your
Yes,
GN or
exactly. It was my OBGYN. Yep.
okay. And so that is when she began to start tracking you. And that is when you learned how to track yourself and find out, oh, I
Mhm.
should be ovulating on these particular days. So, Lise, can you just kind of walk us what that process looks like and just kind of give us more information? Because I don't think people understand the infertility calendar. And it took me, I swear, I had to ask a lot of women. They were not doctors, but I just needed them to help me understand because I'm like, I don't get it because I'm thinking I can just get pregnant, right? But
Mhm.
of course, my body is like, girl, no, it's happening,
Absolutely.
during the ovulation time. So please explain it to us.
Okay, I can, but I just want to bring up something that's even more taboo than women infertility, and that is male factor infertility,
Yep.
right? This is something that's like, yes, everybody's probably like, what you mean, Celeste? Like
Okay, tell us, we
a
need to
black
know.
man can't. Oh yeah, some black men may not be able to, and that is what the situation is. There is, it's called male factor. A man, men cannot. There are some men who don't produce sperm.
hmm
Okay, There are some men, their sperm has low mobility, so it doesn't move as strong as it should. There are some that aren't formed well. So do not think that fertility is just the woman. There's that Bible verse, oh, the woman, is the reason. No, it could be both ways. So I just need to put it out there that it may not always be the woman. Both people need to be checked if there's anything not happening with your body and your ability to conceive. It is not one-sided. So there, I put that out there. I'm sure there'll probably be questions, but yeah, don't get lost in just thinking it's a woman issue. It could be either side, because a body is a body, right?
Yes.
Some parts of your body, your eye can see and your ear can hear. So just down there, around there, everything can be adjusted, may not function correctly as well. So the fertility affirmation calendar that I create is something that I found as I was going through this fertility journey. I was on an emotional roller coaster. I was looking forward to trying to conceive, and then when my period came on, I was depressed, and then I'd be like sad for days, and then I'd say, okay, Felice, let's pick yourself up. Okay, we got another few weeks, and then we're gonna try this again. And I was just like, I felt emotional wreck. I was like, this is like, I just cannot cry every month. I cannot cry every month. I cannot cry every time I see a birth announcement or, some, baby shower. I've been to a million baby showers. I'm going to say, don't be inviting us to baby showers. Tell us about it and we'll decide if we want to come. But, such hard things. So with that, I just had to say, Celeste, your mind is all over the place with all of the things. All of my friends were getting pregnant. Friends were pregnant at the same time, putting their bellies together, taking pictures, all that kind of stuff. And it was just so much. So there are two parts in terms of the fertility affirmation calendar that I create. It's just affirmations of, I choose to believe that I can get pregnant. It's just positivity in terms of, as you're all over the place, there's a focal point for believing, choosing to believe that your body's going to work right. Our words are so powerful, and we can speak life and death out of our mouths very easily, like, oh, this is never going to happen. Well, yes, that can manifest if we keep speaking it. So it's just a monthly calendar where I want women to track. They can track different habits. So when you had sex, which days of the month did you have sex? Which days did your cervical mucus happen? Which days did you take your medicines, your hormones, whatever those things are? It's a calendar that I'm producing for 2022. And it just has very positive ways to track and keep on a habit of a good mindset, a good habits that you want to have while you're trying to conceive, and just kind of keep you off of this bouncy, topsy-turvy life and roller coaster of trying to conceive.
That's good.
Wow, that is really good. You said so many good things. So I'm gonna jump back for a second to the male factor. And it's men having no sperm. That's the clarity that I'm getting. Okay. So then my next question is, so do you think that men who are affected by the male factor can prevent, so that means that they just don't have any sperm, period, right? Yeah. Okay. So then men who may have low sperm, and then a woman who is struggling with infertility, or a woman who's maybe just a regular woman, could he then impact her maybe ability to get pregnant because he's so low, and then they're just two negatives that don't need to get together, and then when he get with another woman, bam, she like, whoo, I'm pregnant. I just want to know. Let
me tell you something. Okay. Don't say that, because there are a lot of cultures where women don't get pregnant. That mother-in-law is telling them to get rid of that girl and go get you another one. So that is not necessarily the solution.
Oh Lord.
Right. But there are things there. this is why you need to go to the doctor and find out. We don't know what the issue is. If your
Mm.
hormone levels are low, that your periods aren't regular, for
Right.
example, you can get hormones. If you're
Yes.
not eating well or not exercising, for men who have, low mobility sperm, they
Uh-huh.
can get on the bike or exercise or running or get healthy,
Mm.
control their diabetes. All of those kind of things can affect. So it doesn't necessarily have to be, this is the issue, you can't get together. You need to really investigate what it is.
Okay. Do you
Yes.
think eggplants work? I'm just throwing it out. I heard
What?
that.
Now,
I'm
wait, do you have an eggplant emoji? Have you seen it? Do you know
I
what that is?
have I've seen that, but
This
I
person
heard
is,
that
what do you mean
eggplant is
the eggplants work?
supposed to help fertility. I'm just throwing out. So
I
I'm
haven't
being
heard
audience.
that.
I'm being
Tia,
an
have you heard
audience.
that?
I was waiting to least on your answer because I was like, this got to be new.
Okay,
No,
okay,
I have
okay.
not.
Yeah, no.
Chantal,
Those
have
of
you ever
us
heard of that?
experienced women say no, there's no validity to
Oh,
that.
okay.
Now, wait, let's talk about it. When women
Yeah,
who have had
please.
IVF treatments or some
Yeah.
type of fertility treatment in clinic, um, there's a period of time where they will put the egg and sperm, which is the baby, officially in the woman, and they say that if you have pineapple during that time, it helps the baby to
Yes.
attach and that kind of thing. So the
Yes.
fertility symbol is a pineapple. Yeah.
Pineapple.
Oh,
Mhm.
so we need to
Pineapple. And
start putting
I'll be
pineapples,
a
y'all,
witness
not the
to that.
eggplants. It's
I'll be a
pineapples,
witness to the
y'all.
pineapple treatment because we are IVF, warriors here. So the day that they implanted two of my embryos, listen, I went home. I stayed in bed for 4 days straight, and 2 of those 4 days, I had nothing but the pineapple core. So, they say it helps. Whatever's in that core, it is definitely, it helps for implantation. And I'm gonna say I'm a believer because it was a winner for us. It was a success the very first round.
So were you chopped up the pineapple and ate the core, or did you blend
Yes.
it? Okay.
I actually did not blend it. I ate it straight up. I just
How
ate
did
it.
you do it? Isn't it hard?
Well, it's not like you it wasn't just the core only. I kind of, you just kind of cut the pineapple where you're leaving parts of the core in there, and I was just
Okay.
enjoying it that way. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Wow.
Hmm.
Well, you can
Wow.
probably get it out of a can. I don't think that's going to make a major difference either. Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
I'm learning some new stuff. I just want to learn, and I want to educate the community because okay,
Hmm.
I'm being a community today, y'all. I'm the
Yes.
interviewer, but I'm the community because it's so many rumors or stigmas or do this
Yeah.
or don't do this, and we just take it and we believe it and we run with it, and then
Yeah.
decades later it's like, no, science says that's not true. What are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah, you know
Yeah.
what? You kind of just have to you do your research, and then you do listen to others because I was asking at that point while I was in the process. I only was talking to people that went through the IVF process. My mom wasn't, she didn't have no idea what was going on, so she was kind of just, it was just like whatever I was telling her, and she was just there to support me and pray me through. But other than that, she didn't have an idea, so I was asking a ton of questions, and the ones that had a success rate, I was just like, all right, give me everything. Give me all of the great things that you did that helped you conceive. And you just kind of like learn as you go. It's not a right or wrong, honestly. You
Mhm.
just, whatever journey you're in, you're just kind of walking it out until it hits.
So, Tia,
Yes.
walk us through.
Hmm.
You're at the point, and I'm gonna say desperation.
Yes.
You've gone through everything. Okay, I'm tired of being afraid.
Yes.
I'm fed up. I'm angry as hell that I'm not
Yes,
able to
ma'am.
conceive. I resent the fact that I've done everything I was supposed to do right. I have
Yes.
built this home. I have this marriage. I'm in my career. I don't have that missing piece to continue to build my fantasy and create my legacy. Tell us
Yes.
the mindset that you just came to where you decided, you know what? IVF is the way to go. This is the process, and I'm going to go down this lane.
Chantel, I think every time I talk to you, you make me tear up.
I'm sorry.
Because it's just, when I go down the path, it's such a stressful, emotional roller coaster. And I believe Celeste touched on this. You're all over the place. And our journey was a 10-year journey. And I mean, we did everything. We did IUIs. I believe we did like 7 or 8 rounds of IUIs. And and for those that don't understand the IUI process, it's pretty much just at the time of ovulation, they do a sonogram and they see if the egg is released. They take my husband's sperm and they insert it. They go past the uterus and they just insert it as close to the egg as possible. And I had out of those 7 rounds, I had 2 successful, like where I got pregnant, but the first one ended up into a miscarriage about 6 weeks into that pregnancy. And then the second one, this was the round right before we did IVF. That one ended up being a tubal pregnancy, where the baby was growing in my right tube. And I eventually, of course, had to get that tube removed. So it was a roller coaster. And I went through so many different formulas as far as what treatments to take so that I can produce a certain amount of eggs. And then I also got to a point where I was producing so many eggs. I had a lot in my ovarian reserve to where, my abdomen was, it was so big as if I was pregnant, the medicine makes you so bloated. So it was just a lot. So I put my body through so much. And then even within those 7 rounds, because it was 10 years, of doing all of this, I had to take breaks. I had to take so many breaks. And in those breaks, of course, I told myself, I'm not doing this again. Look, God, if this is for me, then you just gonna have to just bless me, but I'm not gonna try anymore. But it was that last round. It was that last round when we had the tubal pregnancy, and I gave my body a break. And then my husband said, babe, I believe God. I don't believe that we are going to be a couple without a baby. And it was his faith that made me take that last step. And I promise you, if I tell him today, like, Isaiah would not have been here if you didn't push me to do IVF, because I was done. I was done. I put my body through enough. And I'm just grateful that God saw fit to bless us that first round, because it was, I was at my breaking point, and I was just like, I can't do it anymore. It's such a roller coaster.
And I love this story, and I just love the fact, to everybody that's listening and watching, that's the power of marriage.
Yeah.
When you can push your mate because you see you, and even as mates, we can see something on our mate that they can't see, that they possess, that they have, but because they in a season or just in a place where they're struggling, they can't see it. But because we can see it, we can just speak words of affirmation. They're really words of confirmation that, hey, it is going to happen, and believing and interceding. That's where intercession comes in, and we're interceding for our partner and for our marriage, and we're just believing that God is gonna do what he says he's gonna do. He's a man that he shall not lie. He's, we and us having faith. And that's what I heard through this whole story, this whole journey, that there was faith. And even when you lost your faith, your husband was like, nah, babe, I got us. I believe God. Mark 11:22-24 says that if you believe it, then you shall receive it. And just standing on God's word. And you guys stood for 10 years.
10
That's that's
years.
a, that's a that's an amazing journey. That's a testimony. And somebody needed to hear that today. And so I'm so
Yes.
grateful that you came on the show to share that with us, because 10 years can be a long time. That's a decade.
Ooh, and it felt like 10 years. You know, and sometimes people say it
Wow.
flew by. No, it was a
Mm.
journey, and it still brings tears to my eyes every time I talk about it. Every time, I'm even just kind of like sharing with another mom that's in the process, I'm like broken up with her because I remember the pain. It was like yesterday, it's I
Wow.
remember the pain. So my heart just goes out for every woman or man that's that's because men go through it too just as much as we do.
So
So
how and let's put a pin in it there.
yeah.
How, were there times when your husband had lost faith, or just tell us, like, how did he cope? Because yes,
Hmm.
our body is going through it,
Yeah.
but when you, as a mother, when, or not even as a mother, as a person, when you see somebody in pain, as a woman, we're like, oh, that baby
Yes.
need a band-aid. That baby fell off his bike. Oh my God, go get that baby a band-aid. You're not even,
Yeah.
this person family member, but you're
Yeah.
like, he needs a band-aid, and I just want to clean him up or her up. And what was it like, just from your point of view, watching him or just hearing some of the stuff he was going through as he walked with you through this journey, this process?
Yeah, you know what, in the beginning my husband kept it in a lot, so a lot of times I had to read in between the lines, and I had to go in my little prayer closet and really pray for him because I knew that when I lost baby number two, that's when I saw a change in him because he was so hopeful that second time around. So then I started blaming myself. So then at that point, we needed to get counseling. So I really believe that us taking that step to talk it through with someone really helped him and connect him back to me to where I can see where he is. Because that's what
Wow.
he was, but I didn't say everything. I'm an open book, but but with him he was holding it in. So it wasn't until we started going to counseling that I really got to see how I could help him, deal with it.
Wow. Wow. So I want to ask you ladies about the family history. Was there somebody in your family, or was it something genetically that went on that, maybe you discovered as you, continued to go to your doctor, discovered about yourself, and maybe you went home and began to have those conversations with people in your family, or, other maternal women in your family?
Like I said, I found out, with my aunt and uncle having their adopted their child, excuse me. I just kind of found out like, oh, okay, there could be issues there. With my husband and I, we just found out that the issue wasn't necessarily with me, it was with him. And then this is where there needs to be dialogue in terms of how women and men can start families with the inability to use their own body parts or their own, eggs or sperm.
Mhm.
Excuse me, so sorry. But you have to think about, like, there are surrogates. There are women, we Beyonce or whoever who's had someone to hold their baby. I don't know if that's the truth or not, but someone else to carry your baby. There are
Yes.
hardly any egg donors for Black women. So let me just put it out there. There are hardly any egg donors for
Hmm.
Black women. So if you
Celise,
need a
Celise.
woman, if she's unable to produce eggs or enough that, or the quality, right? The quality to be able to produce a baby, then you can go somewhere and they have, everybody knows men donate sperm.
Yeah.
Well, women, the option for women to do that exists as well. So
Hmm.
women, if you are So let's talk about something that you can store your own eggs. So say you're in your 20s and you're happy and excited and you don't know what's going to happen in the future. You may not even be thinking about it. The option is there for you to go and have your eggs stored. And you say, when I finish law school, medical school, when I travel the world for 6 years, me and my husband can come back and have babies, and those eggs will be there frozen, or his sperm can be there frozen. But yeah, the family issue, it doesn't necessarily have to be the solution or the question where you start wondering, is this where the issue lies?
Right.
Because there are different solutions outside of just your
Right.
genetics or your body being able to produce or not produce something.
I absolutely agree with Celeste. I agree. Because there wasn't any, I didn't know who's dealing with this, who in my family had to, go through IVF to conceive. I did not know of anyone. So again, it was literally what was going on in my body. My sister was able to conceive like that, and my mother, so we just was like, what is it? Why is Tia having such a hard time? And I'm just so grateful that Kevin did not have any infertility or male factors going on, and it was a hormonal imbalance for me that was stopping the ovulation flow. So I think that once we are aware of what it is that is stopping us from conceiving or ovulating, then that's kind of like how you can kind of pinpoint on what to do, what you can do. Thankfully, I was able to have enough eggs with this last IVF cycle. We were able to get 23 out. So we do have some stored. My husband and I talk about, like, are we going to donate them after, because of course I'm not going to put back all, all of them, So
the mother of 23 children. The infertile mother had 23 children, right? The infertile woman had 23 children.
Isn't that something, right?
That would be a miracle.
Right. Yeah.
And actually my husband and I, we joke about, like, babe, we got like 20 some kids, but I'm just so thankful for that science that we were able to store them for when we need them, when we want to conceive again.
Wow. Whew, I'm learning so much.
I'm
learning so much, and I know the community is learning because I'm asking all the questions we do not know.
Yes. I hope I'm answering them.
You both really are. So my next question is, and Celeste, you can go first, or it's kind of two-part. So why isn't this a dinner table conversation, and how do we make this a dinner table conversation?
You know what? I don't know if it's ever going to be a dinner conversation because it is too personal.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, so let's talk about it.
If it's just between you, like mom and daughter, or
okay, yeah,
because I mean,
okay, I'm thinking of a public setting where everybody's just kind of around and just like the news.
And I don't mean
fertility going.
Yeah, and I don't mean Thanksgiving dinner. I mean, just immediate family. So say it's your sisters and mom having those conversations, because I have 3 daughters, so it could happen to any one of those 3 daughters. Yeah. But if I can begin to have those conversations and make them comfortable enough to share, or to I don't know what to do. How do I know? I want to support them. What if it happens? And then they can say, "Oh, mom, I remember us having this conversation," or maybe we should have. This is
the thing. You can okay, so it depends. I'm going to talk about 2 stages. If it's trying to conceive, you can have those conversations because no one's really personalizing it. No one's feelings are going to get hurt. However, if you're in that stage, and what Tia and I both know is people say some stuff to make you so mad.
Yes, I understand.
They think they're helping and they're
don't know how to talk to
you off, okay? So like if you're talking about dinner conversation, then they just gonna say, "Oh, well, why don't you just go on a nice vacation or holiday?" And you're like, hello, I'm going to use that money to go and get another treatment. Or why
Listen.
don't you just relax? It's going to happen. Or,
Oh,
this shouldn't be a problem. You're young. You got time. So the fact that these conversations aren't going to come out because we're already too sensitive. We're already, yeah, we're already sensitive, and then somebody gonna come and say something that's like, please don't talk to me. So then you self isolate. Wrong term, but correct, analogy. It is like you're like, I can't deal with people. And you talk to your closest friends, but they cannot relate.
yes,
Some of
yes.
people say stuff they don't mean harm.
They
We
don't.
know they don't mean harm, but what they're saying, you just like, please don't make sure there are no bricks around when you're talking to me because they just say things. I mean,
Yeah.
and we all experience that. Let me touch your hair, right?
Hmm.
So, all kinds of things. We know how people can do and say inappropriate stuff, but you just it, I hope, well, obviously we're talking about it today, so it can become a
Yeah.
conversation to talk about.
Hmm.
And I always tell people, if you see a couple who doesn't have kids, please don't jump and ask them, why don't you have kids yet? Okay, just mental note. Oh, they don't have kids. Okay, so what do you guys do? What do you do for work? Have another conversation. I've had people come to me, they say, oh, so do you have kids? And I'm like, no. And then the conversation just stops. And you're like,
Yeah.
well, there are other things that I do
Yeah.
other than try to be a mother. Like, why don't you ask me about my job? Or why don't you ask me, do I hike, or what TV show I watch, or something? Don't just cut me off because I don't have a child and I cannot, you think you can't relate to me because we are not going to talk about the preschool that our children are going to, or, what grades they made this year.
Ooh, Celie said a
Awesome.
whole
Yeah.
sermon, honey, right there. A whole sermon.
And you answered my second question was how do we support, how do
Mhm.
we support that? And so again, having different conversation topics. And again, mental note, if you see a couple with no children, don't say why don't you guys have children, or what happened,
Yes.
because it's such a
What you
sensitive.
waiting on? Or, yeah.
Ooh,
Oh,
wait.
what you waiting on? Yeah.
I
Oh
hate
man.
that one makes my skin just because I
Mm.
mean I can't tell you how many times my closest family members, would say that because we've been together for 17 years. They're like, what are you waiting on? I'm like, Jesus.
Jesus. Yes.
God himself, honey. But you're right, Celise and Chantel. It's so true. I'm still guarding myself. I still guard myself. It's still delicate. I'm still sensitive about it. And I wrote a blog post about 8 things to not, say to couples who's currently struggling with infertility, because it's just hard all the way around, and you got to be careful with your words.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Well, ladies, I mean, I think we can go so long on this
We
conversation.
can.
And so I will have to have you guys, you ladies back, at another time. So, man, because I think it's so we can just go really, really deep. And I think today, I honestly believe we just scratched the surface because it goes so much deeper and getting into that sensitivity and of it, and us as women knowing ourselves. And so I do want that to be a topic, for another show. So I definitely invite you ladies to come back. So, Tia,
Yes, ma'am.
what would you say to the younger you 10 years earlier, and to the
Oh,
woman today who is where you were 10 years ago?
oh goodness. I would say to not give up, because is what produces your pain is what produces joy later on. Your pain is what will help and keep others and what will save others. Just remember what you've gone through or what you will go through, because it's going to help someone in the long run. And I believe that today, like, I cannot stress enough how many people that have reached out to me and said, you have inspired me. You're so young. You're so relatable. But yet you talk as if you've been through so much and you're only 35. And I'm like, it's because I have, you know? And so I'll tell the younger me all day, every day, to not give up. Continue to tell your story, and what you will go through, it's going to help someone in the long run.
That is beautiful. Tell us how we can find you and connect with you and get all our Go Beautiful Girl gear.
Oh, yes. I have a website and blog, Go Beautiful Girl. It is www.getinspiredwithtia.com. You can also shop the gear on there. I also just released Isaiah's own t-shirt line. It is the Miracle Baby line. He is the face of his own brand. It's Isaiah Tees. And so that you can also shop that on www.getinspiredwithtia.com. You can also follow me on Instagram. I am there daily engaging with my followers. It is such an amazing community that I have built there. My IG handle is Go Beautiful Girl. And also, I am on YouTube. I just started a YouTube channel. It is Wells at Home. I also have a Facebook page, Wells at Home, as well.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. So I'm gonna wrap up the show, and I'm gonna ask Miss Celeste the same thing. Celeste, what would you say? And your story is just a little more unique because you did deal with the male factor. So what would you say to the, I guess, the you that found out about that? And then what would you say to the woman who is with the love of her life? How does she continue forward and not hold grudges or have that resentment or or anger or whatever, emotions and feelings that you can have once you find out that information and you thought you were going to have something and now you have to build a life in another particular way?
Yeah, I would just say, Celeste, you are strong enough to go through this. God doesn't give you anything that you can't handle. And consider yourself a pioneer to be going through something that a lot of people haven't experienced or are able to comfortably discuss. Your worth and your value is not determined by the number of children you have. Um, we can look at a family and think that it's a perfect representation of society, and there could be so many crazy things going on in the background. Don't make that baby an idol. Don't make that baby be the thing that's going to complete you or love you unconditionally. And don't assume that it's somebody's responsibility to make you whole or to determine your value by what you're producing or not producing. I just say love yourself, treat yourself kind, know that good things are going to happen to you in whatever way they come. It does not have to be one particular way that you live your life, and you deserve to be happy and fulfilled, and just pursue the things that bring you joy. It is not, your worth is not determined by what someone contributes to your life or takes away from your life. Everything you need is within you.
Beautiful, beautiful. Tell us how we can find you.
Do people want to find me?
We want to find you.
Well,
We would like to get our affirmation calendar
yeah,
to
well, I
affirm
have a
us.
website, lahojo.co.uk, because I'm in the United Kingdom. And Lahojo is the first two letters of the words love, hope, and joy. So it's lahojo.co.uk. I'm also on Instagram, which is lahojo.uk. And I also am on Facebook at lahojo.uk or lahojo. So I look forward to anyone who wants to reach out in the United Kingdom or Europe, on the other side of the world, because we experience the same kind of issues, but there are different ways that our healthcare system runs in terms of getting treatments and things. So I'd love to hear from people.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the show, and I will catch you backstage. All right, guys, that or ladies, that is our show for today. We had a wonderful, eye-opening conversation around infertility, and I believe I learned so much. I hope that you did too. So don't forget to check us out on our website if you are needing any information about domestic violence and other resources that we may have. So visit us at www.mffproject.com, and I will see you all again next time on the MFF Project podcast, hosted by Chantel Branch, Identity of Women.